capture of a woman coming home from work at 3 a.m. to find her dog possessed.
Just a cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me, and you know it makes me sad.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Where do you think I learned all this shit
It's just a cigarette, and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me, and you know it makes me sad.
Video of water at the Cecil Hotel before Eliza Lam's body was found in the water tank.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh. I just finished this real quick, okay? Okay, all right, okay. Are you good? Okay, I'm so sorry. There's no way you would have let your kid walk by.
Lucy, if you need to step aside, please do.
So, okay. He's okay. He's good. You good? Okay. He's good. But yeah, he was the one.
Place the drawer. Pull the drawer out. Put it in the bag.
Yeah, you just want the whole lot done like
The
that.
whole lot. Yep. I'll have that one as well.
If I'm honest, I don't think anyone could have predicted what we were going to find when we searched his house.
Are they ones he's taken?
Well, why does that person look dead?
Yesterday, Brian Koberger was arrested for 4 counts of first-degree murder in relation to the murder of the 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th. We're now learning that Brian Koberger went to school after the killings. Students from his class are speaking out. He had a white Elantra and lived 10 minutes away.
We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. He came out at me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this.
But it
I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
It was not crying or nothing.
What did you do to it?
Okay, stop right here.
Stop.
Where did you put the baby at?
Tell me the truth.
When you got in there.
517-836-460.
That came out in the toilet? You put it in the bag?
Yes.
Yeah.
In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now?
Yes, they're here!
Where's your daughter? Where's the knife at?
I don't even know what she is. I'm so sorry. I'm so
Come here.
sorry.
Come here.
I'm so
We're just gonna put handcuffs on just for now. Where's the knife?
Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I'm so fucking sorry, Lou. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry. You better freak out. Fuck, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
What is a crime that happened in your area that you think everybody should know about? Mine is the Pam Hupp case. So in 2016, Pam Hupp shot Louis Gumpenberger 5 times. He was inside of her house, and she immediately went to the police and turned herself in. The police found on Louis's body a note instructing him to kidnap and kill Hupp. Okay? Now, Pam said that Louis jumped out of a car with a knife, held her at knife point, and demanded that she drive him to a bank and get him Russ's money. Now, Russ was referencing Russ Faria, the husband of Betsy Faria, one of Pam Hupp's friends, who was also murdered in 2011. This goes deep. It's a whole conspiracy.
They never bother me.
I will be showing the video, but nonetheless, hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. In September of 2017, 31-year-old Laura Wallen vanished into thin air. Her boyfriend Tyler Tessier had played the part of the worried boyfriend desperate for answers. However, he was living a double life. He had a fiance, and he feared that Laura would expose her pregnancy. The night of her unaliving, Laura texted her friend and stated, "Tyler has taken me to an open field in Damascus. I'm not sure why we're here, but it's in the middle of nowhere." Her body was found a few days later. Sam and Colby eventually uploaded a video where they were in the same area at the same time, and they captured a woman begging for help. Here's the video.
What the? Did you get that? Yeah, I got that. Somebody is screaming. Someone's screaming bloody murder. Whoa. Guys, what the do you hear that? Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Hey, I can't be the only one. Who else knows people that have killed other people?
Finally, something that I can actually relate to. So my grandma killed her mom, so she killed my great-grandma. It's kind of a crazy story, but back in the 90s, my grandma was over at her house giving her a bath. She was elderly, so my grandma was kind of in charge of taking care of her. During the bath, my grandma brought up the past about how she was abused as a child by one of her stepdads, and her mom then basically admitted to knowing about the abuse but blamed her for it instead of the stepdad, which sent my grandma into a rage. She ended up drowning my great-grandma, and then after she was dead, instead of calling the police, she cut up her body into 8 different pieces, put them in garbage cans, filled the cans with cement, and then put these garbage cans in different storage units all throughout my hometown where I grew up. When the police were investigating, she lied.
So does anyone remember this 911 phone call?
I live alone, and I'm an old lady. Where is he now, ma'am? I have no idea.
Now, I don't normally post this type of content, but I remember when I first dived into true crime and I heard this 911 call. I scoured the internet trying to find answers on what happened to this woman and what the call was about. For a long time, people speculated that it was a coordinated 911 call originally meant to train 911 operators to ask the callers for their addresses immediately before asking what their actual emergencies were. Others claimed it was a real call of the last moments of an old woman's life as she was unalived by an intruder. After a few years, it was learned that the call was indeed real and the caller's name was released as Ruth Price. Sadly, even though new information was brought to the table, there were still tons of conflicting stories on the situation of the phone call and the outcome of Ruth Price. There was simply an unfortunate assumption that she did not make it at the end of the phone call. Now it looks like we have answers. Part 2 coming right up.
Two words, buckle up. 29-year-old Christine Chubbuck did something on live television that traumatized an entire community. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. Christine was hired at a news station called WXLT-TX, and she was later given her own show called Suncoast Digest, where she talked about recent crimes. A little bit about her: she was severely depressed and tried to unalive herself in 1970, but failed. She even made several comments on air about taking her own life, and her news partner just awkwardly moved on. On the morning of July 15th, 1974, she confused her coworkers by saying that she had to open up for Suncoast Digest, which she normally did not do.
Immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news. TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first. In living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide.
She then drew a weapon, unalived herself, and the broadcast rapidly went black.
If I told you your mother was in the courtroom here today, would that be the truth?
No, so.
That would not be the truth. Why is that? Because she's not in the courtroom?
No, so.
Okay. So your mother is not in this courtroom?
No, so.
Okay. And you're telling me that that is the truth? That your mother is not in the courtroom?
Yes, so.
Okay. Where is your mother?
Jail.
She's in jail.
That woman sitting right there between them. Have you ever seen her before?
Yes, so.
Who is that?
My mother.
Now you recognize your mother?
Yes, so.
Oh. Hey, James. Hey, James.
Yes, so.
Give me your hand. All right. Give me. Here.
Everyone loves Eddie Munson from Stranger Things so much, but did you know that he was based on a real person / true crime case? The Duffer Brothers confirmed that Eddie was based off of Damien Eccles, one of the West Memphis Three who were accused of the 1993 murders of 3 8-year-old boys in West Memphis, Arkansas. The bodies of Steve Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore were found in a ditch on May 6, 1993. And not long after, then 18-year-old Damien and 2 of his friends, 16-year-old Jason Baldwin and 17-year-old Jesse Miskelly, were arrested and accused of the murders. They were all metalheads and labeled outcasts, much like Eddie, and the trial heavily focused on Damien's interest in paganism. And the satanic panic at the time was a huge element of the case. Jason and Jesse were sentenced to life in prison, while Damien was sentenced to death by lethal injection. But after new DNA evidence and technology was introduced in 2007, people started questioning whether or not the 3 men were actually guilty. After years of battling, in 2011, a new judge re-examined the case and a new trial was brought, where Damien and the other two men entered an Alford plea, which basically meant they were still technically guilty despite maintaining their innocence. The new judge vacated their previous convictions, and they were sentenced to time served, which was 18 years. All three of them were then immediately released. After being released from prison, Damien actually lived in Peter Jackson's apartment in New York City. Peter is the director, writer, and producer of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Together, they produced a movie called West of Memphis, which highlights the case. Damien has also published multiple books. The Duffer Brothers said they really wanted to hone in on the satanic panic in Stranger Things 4. Describing the character of Eddie, they said, quote, "What's sad about his narrative is that the people who get to know him really love him, and the people who don't have judged him horribly, just because of the way he dresses and because of his interests," end quote.
A bombshell new detail about the Idaho murders could change everything we think we know about the case so far. A neighbor told our Daily Mail reporters that they saw this door right here, the front door to the house, wide open at around 8:30 in the morning on November 13th, that Sunday, hours after 4 people in that house would be murdered and before their bodies would be discovered. The murders are suspected to have taken place between 3 and 4 a.m. That is an approximation, and as of right now, we don't have any other information to indicate how long this door might have been left ajar. And here is how this new detail could potentially change things. You'll remember that in the early days of the investigation, pretty much everyone was suspicious about why the 2 roommates downstairs on the first floor were alive and unharmed. Many people moved on from those suspicions when we learned that allegedly investigators believe the killer entered through this sliding glass door on the second floor or one of the nearby windows also on the second floor. The murders took place on the second floor and the third floor. The 2 surviving roommates lived on the first floor. So the theory there is, if the killer entered on the second floor and then went upstairs and then exited through the second floor, they would have had no need to go to that bottom floor. But if this front door right here on the first floor was used by the killer, either on their way in or on their way out, we are back at square one with questions as to why these 2 first floor roommates were not harmed. Now, I have my own working theory about how this door might have been seen open at 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, but I want to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments.
There was a murderer on Dr. Phil, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about this case. I'm gonna warn you guys right now, if you get disturbed easily, I'd stop watching because this case gets very disturbing. First, I'm going to tell you about the case itself, and then we're going to get into the astrology of it. And you already know that 18 and 22 degrees have something to do with it. This beautiful boy is Dylan Redwine. He was born on February 6, 1999, and he would be described by his friends as very outgoing, funny, loved to talk back and forth via text. He was an Aquarius with a Libra moon. Dylan's father was the last person to see Dylan alive, and the mother automatically thought that he had something to do with it. So much so that she made him go on the Dr. Phil show. There's so many sick, demented, twisted turns that this story takes, so in this video, I'm going to talk about what he said happened that day. But first, a quick reminder, he is a sick, twisted fuck. And you will see why later. Dylan's parents are divorced, and it was court ordered that on November 17th, Dylan had to fly to go see his father for Thanksgiving. His flight actually got canceled though, and so he flew on November 18th. Dylan's father said that Dylan arrived in Durango, Colorado at around 5:56 p.m., and this is the security footage found from the airport. They then drive to Walmart and then eventually out to eat at McDonald's. And his father makes a big emphasis on, oh, I wanted to take him to a restaurant to sit down and eat, but he wanted to go to McDonald's. We'll get to that. Then he says they were eating the McDonald's in the car for the ride home, and they arrived home and watched a little TV before they both went to bed. By the way, I just want to add in here, this dude lives on a 22-mile stretch of nothing at the end of a dead-end street. So they are in the middle of nowhere. Then he says he wakes up at like 7 o'clock in the morning because he has to go to his job to get some payroll thing. So he tries to wake Dylan up to ask him if he wants to go with him for the ride. And he said that Dylan didn't want to go, he wanted to sleep in. And then his dad leaves the house at 7:30. And that would be the last time he ever sees his child. His dad then comes home at like 11:30 and notices that Dylan isn't there. What do you think he does when he finds that out?
This killer accidentally admitted to his crimes by accident when he forgot he was wearing a microphone while taking part in a documentary. This is how a true crime documentary exposed a killer. In 1971, Robert Durst met Kathleen McCormack and they got married. At the time of her disappearance in 1982, Kathleen had nearly graduated college. She was last seen by a witness at a dinner party where she appeared to be upset. She got a call from Robert and left. Robert admitted to having argued with Kathleen that night, but he said he put her on a train to New York and then never saw her again. Her friend called police to report her missing. Interestingly, Kathleen had been treated at a medical centre for facial bruises weeks prior to this and told the friend that Robert had done it. Robert had actually been dating someone else for some time prior to this and had been living separately to Kathleen. When her family broke into her cottage to try and find out where she was, they found the place had been trashed and her possessions put in the bin. Kathleen's family always believed that Robert was involved in her disappearance. In 2000, Susan Berman, a friend of Robert's, was found murdered. Now, she'd actually provided Robert with an alibi for Kathleen's disappearance. Now, pay really close attention to this next bit. Days after she was killed, a letter addressed to the Beverly Hills Police Department contained Susan's address and the word cadaver on it. On the envelope, Beverly was misspelled. Robert admitted in 2005 that Susan had called him shortly before her death to say that the police wanted to question her about Kathleen going missing. It's believed that Robert killed Susan to keep her quiet. In 2001, Robert's neighbour's body parts were found floating in Galveston Bay. Robert's elderly neighbour, Morris Black, had been killed and Robert was arrested. He was actually released on bail and fled and was found about a month later in Pennsylvania. He was found with $37,000 cash, 2 weapons, and interestingly, Morris Black's driving license. In court, Robert claimed he was acting in self-defense. He said he'd accidentally shot Morris and dismembered his body. Due to lack of forensics, he only got 5 years in jail. This is where things get really crazy. HBO was filming a documentary called The Jinx. During production, Susan's stepson found a letter written by Robert. This contained the same spelling error in the word Beverly as the anonymous letter to police. This implicated Robert in the murder. Now, while filming the documentary, Robert needed the toilet. He forgot that he had a microphone still attached to him. He was recorded talking to himself. He said, "There it is, you're caught. You're right, of course, but you can't imagine. Arrest him." And then he said, "What a disaster. He was right. I was wrong." And finally he said, "I'm having difficulty with the question. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course."
I'm going to tell you guys about the time that I heard my father murder my mother. So I was 11 years old, and it was New Year's Eve, 1989. I woke up in the middle of the night to, I believe it was like a scream, and I thought maybe it was from my sister. It startled me. Obviously, I'd never been woken up with a scream before. And I then heard these two like really loud thuds happen. They were about like 45 seconds apart. It sounded like it was enough to like terrify me. And I heard like this muttering, like this, and it sounded like my father's like voice, sort of muttering something. I don't really know. And then there was like probably like what seemed like a long eternity of a pause. I heard these footsteps come down the hall, and I was like tempted to look up, and I remember I had this Batman clock, and I looked up at the clock and it said 3:18 a.m. And I heard this, and there was this like voice in my head that was saying, "Don't look up, because I could see out of my peripheral vision, because I always slept with my door open as a kid. Slept with my door open, and I saw these like 2 feet in the doorway, like out of my peripheral vision. I was just like laying there, just thinking to myself, like, do I want to look? And this like voice in my head was like, don't look up. And then the feet were there for a minute, and I was sort of going back and forth on what to do. And then I think they went away. I heard them walk away. Yeah.
Some heartbreaking news that has just come out of Florida. Trigger warning, this is one of the most horrifically disgusting child abuse cases that I've ever seen.
I'm about to release information to you that probably before I get halfway through this press conference, you will be thinking, why in the world is he saying these horrible things? Well, you need to know. So we're going to tell you what this child experienced at the hands of their parents because the parents didn't do the right thing. I want to introduce you to the parents, to Keisha Williams, who's 24, and Ephraim Allen Jr., who's 25. Here's when it all began. In July of 2020, when this beautiful baby boy was only 10 months old, he suffered a near-drowning experience at a short-term rental in the northeast area of the county. He toddled off into the pool. There was life-saving efforts to try to save this baby's life. When they got him to the hospital at the conclusion of all of their valiant efforts, the child had no brain activity, could not even blink his eyes, cannot move his extremities, and quite frankly, it was recommended to the parents that he be removed from any life-saving measures because the child would forever be in a coma with no brain activity. They didn't want to do that. So ultimately, these parents were sent home with their infant on a ventilator, a permanent ventilator, with a stomach tube. As of last October, the parents began to reject the home health care. Despite the healthcare company's best efforts, they would not be home, would not answer the door. So the last time home health care dealt with this child was in October of last year. So let's fast forward to Friday, May the 12th. There's a 911 call to the city of Bartow, to the Azalea Apartments where they live, where the mother said, you know, the child's pulsometer is not working correctly. This is really not an emergency. You don't need red lights and sirens, but we'd like fire to come over and check the baby. So they responded to the house in a normal, routine fashion. And when they arrived, they saw this child hooked up to a ventilator. And this ventilator was working appropriately, but there appeared to be no life in the child. This child had an extremely extended stomach, and it was green. This child was rotting in the bed. They rushed this baby to the hospital, where for over an hour, or about an hour, between EMS, fire services, and medical personnel, they tried to save this baby's life. At the hospital, when they started taking off the diapers and the clothes, they noticed ulcers, large gaping wounds through the body down into the muscle. They noticed there was no rectum. There was just a big gaping hole where the intestines and the spinal column was visible. We noticed immediately the child smelled of decomposition. We went back to the house where the child laid lifeless as it had for 2 years and smelled decomposition in the room. The medical examiner at the autopsy said the child had sepsis, bilateral pneumonia, stage 5 ulcers, obvious not child neglect. So we talked to the parents and we go, what is going on here? They said, well, they didn't want DCF to take their children, so they didn't call. They let this baby rot and die in its bed. I've done this for 5 decades. I have never seen the horror that we saw with this poor child at the hands of these two folks.